found the youth is primarily starts with your youth. Bernard took care of his body when he was a young man. He lived right. He never was one to party, a lot of late nights, a lot of unnecessary different activities on his knees and his legs. So it put him in position for his body to reward him later on in his years. And what we've learned, and I emphasize this to a lot of young athletes, you get kids in boxing, especially in boxing, I'm starting to see it a lot. You have guys that are athletes in boxing. They're actually athletes. So, I mean, guys, they football players, basketball players, baseball players, but they just happen to be able to box. And they bring those attributes to boxing. Well, that's well and fine until you start getting older, and then you can't rely on those attributes. When you can no longer rely on your athleticism, you have to have learned the sport. If you can no longer rely on your athleticism, you would have learned the sport. Bernard Hopkins learned the sport. When you look at Bernard Hopkins, Bernard's not a football player, Bernard's not a basketball player, Bernard is a fighter, and he's one of the few out there, actually. So is that him knowing the craft of boxing, he's able to do it a lot longer than a lot of these other guys who rely so much on their athleticism, and now that the athleticism is faded, the fight has to fade. I mean, once it's going, you got to sit down, too. You know what I mean, if you didn't learn the craft. That's why you had guys who are all-time greats like Ray Leonard and them. They had so much athleticism. But you notice when Ray got near with a fighter like Hearns, who had more gifts than him, he could go to the fundamentals of boxing. Ray Leonard got his hands high, got behind his jab, and still was able to defeat Hearns because he knew his craft, too. And like the man said earlier, you have to know your craft in this sport.
You know, you can be a young fighter, but you can be an old fighter. I'm not going to use this guy's name to criticize him, but let's take, for instance, Kelsey Banks. Kelsey Banks had over 400 amateur fights. So, after the Olympics in '88, he turned pro. He had a couple fights. He wilted. He faded away. And people say, well, why did he fade away so soon? He's so young. He wasn't young. Anytime you have a kid that has 400 and something fights, I don't care if it's amateur or pro, that's a lot of fight. And you have a wear and tear. We're not like an automobile where you can rebuild and re-overhaul yourself. Once you get to a certain point, you've got a beginning stage, a progression stage, a sustaining stage. After you reach a sustaining stage, the only thing you can do is go downhill. But like Coach stated, if you take care of yourself and you do things the right way, and you don't get punished when you're coming up, you're going to last a lot longer. And I agree with him on Bernard. Bernard has a very good body. He's taken care of himself over the years. And getting to Roy and the statement that you made, I'm going to say this and I'm going to make it short. For the time that Roy's been fighting, Roy's 42 now, he's been fighting 32 years. Roy has gotten hit more in the last 4 years of his boxing career than he ever did in his whole boxing career. And the reason being, things happen when you get older. Reflexes, timing slows down. You can't do the things that you did before. He hasn't lost those things, but it's just that split second that makes a difference in boxing. Now, if you ride a horse long enough, you're going to fall off the horse. I don't care how good you are, how good a rider you are. If you ride him long enough, you're going to get thrown. So happens. The time that Roy got caught 3 times, he got caught clean. He got caught clean, and the fact of the matter is, every time that he got caught, he was winning the fight prior to getting caught. So if you get hit right, you're going to go. His preparation has been the same as it's been over the years, but he wasn't getting hit then. Some people take shots better than other people. You understand? In football, you get guys that make contact on the line all the time. It's a different type thing. You're not just going straight to the head. But those guys, after years and years of wear and tear, my son played pro ball for 6 years. Sometimes he can't get out of the bed in the morning, because all of the injuries and all of the doggone wear and tear he had on his body when he was coming up. But my concern is the same concern that everybody else has for Roy. We've had brain scans. We've done everything that we're supposed to do. He doesn't have any brain damage. He hasn't had any major injuries to him from the knockouts. And, yeah, it's getting close to the time where Bernard and Roy is going to give this thing up because she can't do it forever. But right now, from a medical standpoint, He's fine, but the reason I stick with Roy, and I've been with him for 20 years, and I'm going to continue to be with him, I'm not afraid to stop a fight. If, in fact, that he was getting punished and didn't get caught with one shot clean, I would stop the fight. And that's what another young, inexperienced trainer probably wouldn't do, just to worry about their credibility and what people say about them. But it's not going to be long before we give it up and do some other things. But Roy's fine right now. Like I stated before, yes, I'm concerned because Roy's like a kid, like one of my own kids. I'm very concerned about it. But, you know, it's one thing about a person when they becomes an adult. You know, you can lead a guy to the water, but you can't make him drink. You know, if Roy decided that he's going to fight, I'd rather be here with him than without him because I'm going to look out for his best interest and look out for his welfare. Yeah, I'm concerned, but he's not going to stop boxing right now. You know, and I've talked to him. I haven't told him to stop, but I always say when you get a certain age and certain things happen, you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Mm-hmm. I was concerned when those things happened. We got tested. And I'm not just going to keep driving the ground. Yeah, I'm concerned. I was concerned then, and I'm concerned now. But after all the medical tests, everything came back, and it was nothing wrong. The tests all came back okay. So I can't keep harping with the guy, and I know he's going to fight anyway about, well, you need to leave it alone. You need to, you know, a person has to make a decision on his own when it comes to that, just like drugs and alcohol. All the counseling and all of the rehab in the world you can take. You're not going to stop doing drugs until you get ready to stop yourself. So I'll be the first one to say, if I think it's that time, you totally need to stop. You don't need to do it anymore. It hasn't reached that point yet.
I mean, these are two of the great legends of our sport who've decided, and they've both decided this, that they wanted to do it one more time. And they've got all the people surrounding them who care about them, who love them, and they will be there to protect the boxers as well as the athletic commission, the referee, and other people concerned with the event.
Let me throw a hypothetical situation out. I'm going to say this, and it might sound dumb, but, you know, people like excitement. People like revenge. People like to do something that people think they can't do. Right now, if you came up with Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas, because Mike Tyson was supposed to beat Buster Douglas so bad in that fight, and it was a 43-1 odds, and he beat Tyson. What if somebody said today, okay, we're going to give Mike Tyson a year and a half to get in shape, and everybody said he's through, and Buster Douglas said, I'll get down to 270 pounds, and I'll be ready to fight this bum, just hypothetically saying it. How many people you think come and see that fight?
Everybody.
See, it's the same thing. I don't understand where people get this from.
About Tyson right now.
I would have loved for it to happen then, but, you know, everybody has egos and pride. I'm going to tell you about that because, you know, when Roy was on top, Bernard was on top, Roy had more clout at that time than Bernard did. So they tried to put the fight together. Okay, that's when the 60-40 thing came up, okay? It wouldn't happen because Bernard said, no, I won't do it unless it's parity. I'm not going to do no 60-40. Then all of a sudden, Bernard's on top. Roy had a few losses. The 60-40 was thrown out to Roy. No, I'm not going to do it. Now the guys come to a happy medium and say, okay, let's do 50-50. And my opinion is thing about that's just my opinion. Okay, if I knock you out, I'll get 60, and you get 40, and it don't matter. 50-50 is parity. Both of the guys are legends. Both of the guys are great fighters. It's going to be a good fight. That's what I want to see, and we can have some closure to this whole thing. I would have liked to saw the fight 8 years ago, but it didn't happen. But that's the way business is. You know, if you don't come to agreement, things just don't happen. All the way from the promotional parts all the way down to the fighter. So, yeah, I would have liked, as a coach, I would have liked to saw it 8 years ago. The guys would have been more at their prime. Everybody would have been more excited about it. But still, there's no closure to the fight. Bernard wants to beat Roy because he don't think Roy should have beat him the first time. Roy wants to beat Bernard because he said, well, I beat you then and I can beat you now.